Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to an all-new Mindshare podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Royal Realty Inc. and Kits Keep in Touch Systems. Royal Realty has become an influential brand in the real estate industry, expanding to 10 offices with almost 200 realtors servicing the Niagara region and beyond. Motivated by the entrepreneurial spirit of its founders, Ryan and Nikki Saravalli, Royal Realty's mission is to revolutionize the process of acquiring and investing in real estate. Famous for its branding and marketing savvy, Royal is proud to invigilate its realtors with aggressive marketing strategies, creative planning campaigns, mentoring consultations, and a social context that makes every effort worthwhile and enjoyable. Royal Realty invites you to join its revolutionary vision. To learn more about Royal Realty or to join the revolution, please visit www.revelrealty.ca. And of course, Kits is always with us. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite, including Loop CRM, websites, the most personalized newsletters in real estate, follow-up tools, curated social content, wow calendars, and so much more. All to help you manage your business, build that mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. I also want to share that we are working to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, and I want you to be a part of it. I mean, if you have already, thank you. If you have not yet, please take 2 minutes, go to iTunes, rate the show, leave a review. It really is that easy, and thank you again in advance. Today's episode is number 125. Active in real estate for 17 years, he is a broker with Royal LePage Team Realty Brokerage in Ottawa. He is also a member of the Ottawa Real Estate Board, where he served as a director for 6 years before becoming president in 2015. He has also served as a member and chair of several OREB committees and task forces, including the Finance and Audit, Governments, MLS, and Technology committees. She has also been active in real estate for 17 years, and she is a broker with Royal LePage Triland Realty in London, Ontario. She is a member of the London St. Thomas Association of Realtors, where she served as director for 8 years before becoming the president in 2016. She has served as a member and chair of several LSTAR committees and advisory groups and has been a member of OREA's REBBA Review Task Force, Government Relations, and Standard Forms Committee. OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, is responsible for representing over 75,000 realtors here in the province of Ontario. This week, we are excited to be joined by OREA President David Oikle and President-elect Stacey Evoy to provide us one of the first presidential updates since they recently stepped into office. David, Stacey, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here.
And David, nice to see you as well, my friend. Doing well, my friend. Doing well. It's a pleasure to have you both here. And I have to say that we saw each other just the other day, and I was very excited that OREA did a really, really phenomenal job with the virtual event that was held in your honor. I thought that was a great time. I mean, virtual nonetheless, but a lot of fun.
It was really good. We really put it on because realtors get together often during the year at an AGM or our Realtor Party Conference, and relationships are formed and bonds and friendships are made. And we hadn't seen each other in a long time. We've been working hard. We've been serving our members all across the province, and we just thought it was due. It was a lot of fun, but it was also bittersweet because it reminded me how much I miss everybody. So it was really good, but I look forward to being able to see everybody that was on there in person as soon as I can.
Absolutely. And I know, Stacey, we were bouncing around to different rooms, and I mean, there was the piano bar, there was the mixology, there was the dueling pianos were very, very cool. It was
awesome, David.
Yeah.
It was truly great. Like, honestly, it's hard to do these virtual events well. And I don't know about you, but I felt like you were right there. Like, you were at the venue So I thought they pulled it off. I thought they did such a great job. People were having fun in the casino, the mixology, but I love the dueling pianos and the guy who could read your mind. That was awesome.
That one blew us all away, what he was doing with that stuff. The Mentalist, I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Ryan Edwards. Did I get that right? I will make a correction on that
Yes.
if I did. Did I get it right? Okay. He blew us away. That was very, very cool. But virtual events, a sign of the times. It's where we're at these days. There's a lot of it's uncertain out there right now, but we are 13 plus months in, and we're moving forward regardless. And we're seeing a lot of changes, but we're doing a lot of adaptation. In fact, I guess that's my first question to both of you. And please feel free, either one of you or whoever, but what did we as an industry learn over this past year, this past even 13, 14 months now? What do you think the biggest takeaway has been so far?
Well, I'll start on this one. I really think that the biggest thing we learned is how adaptable we are. Last March we decided, we wanted to look after our clients ourselves and stay safe, and it was everything was very, very new, and people adapted very, very quickly to virtual showings and being safe, and people weren't certain how to show properties, and I just think the whole industry all the way across the province adapted very, very quickly. I'm super proud about how they did it, because we've been able to continue to sell homes and look after our clients safely. And I think the adaptability of realtors was the first big lesson that I learned.
Yeah, adapting was.
I'll comment on that.
I was going to say adapting
Sorry,
was a
David.
big one. Go ahead, Stace. Yeah, by all means.
So I was just going to say, it was such a scary time in March, when you were looking at the year ahead and there was so much uncertainty, and, would everyone sort of just want to stay home and be safe? And it was an awesome year. Like, OREA jumped into action in terms of just helping the realtors across the province with exactly what they needed to do step by step for their clients to be safe and for them to be safe. And realtors across the province did a huge amount of business in 2020. Like, it blows my mind, a record year, and during a pandemic when most of us were down for 30 days or more. So it was pretty outstanding. And then when we went into wave 2, it was like, we've already gotten through this once. We already know what to do. There was really no downtime. So it was great. And just the way realtors came together and supported each other through this, and because it was really uncertain times, having kids at home, all of that. So I think it's something really to be proud of this past year as realtors.
It's interesting you bring that up, and we were talking just before we got on air about time management, having the kids at home, and really the big change. And great point there. When this first stepped in, there was a lot of fear. What do we do? Where do we go? By the time the second wave came around, it's almost like we had adapted so quickly to figure out how to maneuver through that. And here we are into, I don't know, are we considering this third wave so far? Is that where we're at right now? We're right. I mean, but we're at this point where we go, what, status quo. I know what to do. I got to keep pushing forward. I've adapted. I've sort of brought in different systems, different tools, or different things to help me grow. I'm just going to keep moving forward. And we've seen a wonderful year of the real estate market. Now, speaking of that, as we look ahead and we look at some of the, maybe some of the barriers to growth, right? I mean, we know that open houses, we know that door knocking, they've all been put on hold again. I guess the question here might be, what are we suggesting to agents that they can do to get themselves out there to build more mind share, grow their business? I mean, what can they, what should they be leveraging to advertise themselves right now? Keeping in mind, again, some of those restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, if you look back 13 months, and how concerned we all were, is that, some of the things I did is that even without business, I mean, we certainly had a lot of time on our hands in March and April because everybody was home, and so I just called a bunch of clients. I just called them and asked them how they were. I mean, this is pretty old school, right? I mean, I'm an older guy, and you pick up the phone and call people, and how are you doing? How are the kids? Again, and really just communicating with your clients and talking to them, it really turned into an awful lot of business. That wasn't what the intention was, but it's really staying in touch with your clients and just asking them how they are. is really kind of an amazingly disarming thing. So I think that that's one thing. I mean, and I think that, just making sure that that's what happens. I think that was a big thing for me.
So I'll comment on that too. I was going to say something similar, David. I feel like people just went into what realtors do. They launched into relationship mode versus selling mode. Realtors launched into, who do I know that's single, that's on their own? Those are the people that I think really suffered through the pandemic. They couldn't go out, no one could see them. Every realtor I talked to was, reaching out to, clients that they knew were on their own, and, or, they have a medical issue, can I get you groceries, or what can I do? And I find that when people launched into that, it was so much more about just helping other people. And the business just came from there, as it naturally does. But the first inclination of people was, who can I reach out to and who can I help in my community?
It's amazing that you bring that up. Help is one of those common themes. I actually put something up in our Mindshare Masters community this morning about that magical 4-letter word. And I will also say that back when this whole thing started, and I had suggested to people to make their phone calls and get out there and reach out to people. I mean, for everybody that's tuned into the show right now, for the audience listening, they all know we could probably end the show right this second, because the both of you said the most important thing there, going, it's a relationship business, right? And you said it bang on. Like, we jumped into relationship mode. We made our phone calls. We found our opportunities. And isn't that what it comes from, right? It really comes back to just reaching out and doing those things. And this is where I think to ourselves as well, from a brand building perspective, or even a business building perspective. Open houses, yes, door knocking, they're not something that you can be doing right now, but there's a lot of other ways that we can be building our business on a regular basis to be pushing forward, not only building our business, but to help other people. And it really most often is as simple as picking up the phone and making the call. Now, speaking to, other restrictions, can you guys maybe share a little bit light, or shine a little light, or maybe this is all, but, some of the other restrictions that are out there, along with maybe some of the things that are still allowed, just to kind of clarify a little bit for everybody tuned in.
I'll talk about our market in Ottawa is that, for a year now, it's been, there've been no overlapping showings. So if people are going to show the property, it used to be that maybe, you and I were each showing it between 12 and 1, and whenever we'd come, okay, you go upstairs, I go downstairs. So there's only 3 people allowed in the home. The realtor with 2 people. You're not allowed to bring Uncle Fred and Aunt Tina to every showing and have like a half a dozen people through the house. I mean, it's really quite restrictive. Most sellers are leaving the lights on so that you don't have to touch anything. So you come in, and sanitize in the door, and maybe you've touched the key or the handle or something like that. But it really is disciplined in that regard. And when I'm showing properties, I'm going to another level. Like they go upstairs, I go downstairs, and we just like it's a game of Tetris through the house to make sure that you're in a different spot. So I think that that's really been good. Early on there were make sure you can confirm, and we with our clients confirm that they haven't traveled, that they've been safe, that they don't have any symptoms, et cetera. Everybody's wearing a mask. I mean, it really is, and because you can rest assured that neighbors are watching, they're going to pay attention to how you are going to be. And the industry is under scrutiny as to how, because sellers are going to want to know, people are going to say, how am I going to know that it's going to be safe? So we have an inventory challenge in the province. We talk about that. We'll talk about that further. And if we weren't handling this thing safe, sellers would be even less confident in selling their homes, and the inventory problem would even be more dire. So I think the realtors around in my market and across the province have done an exceptional job. And I'm not sure what's going on in London that might be different than that.
So very same. In the early days, there was masks and hand sanitizers as you went in every door, just in the event that someone had forgotten. And as you know, across the province in the early days, masks weren't regulated, so sellers wanted them to enter the house. Now, we're seeing less masks because everyone's just used to it when they leave home. We're still seeing hand sanitizer, much like David said, lights on, doors open, so people are having to do little touches. But I think people have adapted really well. And I think there's just, when a seller turns to you and says, Stacy, we need to list our house, but how do you feel? I have a family. I need to be able to say to them, I have trust in my colleagues. Everyone's doing the right thing. Few to any cases have resulted in anything with regards to showings or anything like that. Nothing that we're aware of, but I just don't want to say, with 100% certainty, but it's been safe. And it's because people have been taking great precautions. I will say to a seller, when you do return home, make sure you give a little quick wipe down on everything, just because, we want to protect the buyers and the agents coming in and the sellers and their families when they come home. So it's a few extra steps for sure, but I would say all in all of the precautions have been totally worth it.
Yeah, that's and good advice there too, right? I mean, hoping that the person that came through was taking precautions, and hoping the folks that followed were taking precautions. But much the same, you come home, take your own little precautions as well. This way, you feel comfortable about it, because we're certainly seeing a lot of people doing a lot of the right things, which is again, lent to the success of the market, and the overall wins for a lot of the people that are sort of dealing in real estate right now. Now there's some, OREA has provided some resources that you guys have made available to members to assist in more information around this, along with support systems. I know there's the COVID-19 relief plan, LifeWorks, and I imagine this all somehow ties back to Member Connect as well. Can you share some more around what kind of support is available for members through OREA?
Stacy, do you want to start on that one? I'm hogging the starting, and do you want to start with that?
That's okay. You are the president. OREA started really with the website. So that's the main sort of hub where if you go to the OREA COVID-19 hub, where you can find all the information. And even in the early days, that was where we were driving all the traffic to. Now that things are starting to settle down a bit in the province, you can find more targeted things by just going on OREA.com. So for example, the LifeWorks program, I know we've been trying to spread the word about that across the province, that, it's also available to family members under 25. It's available right on the first page of the OREA.com website, and you just go under member services. It is also available to board staff. So that's a great one that we're very, very proud of. I know I speak for David and myself when we say, coming into January, February of this year and just not knowing what the market would continue to be like, we were concerned about realtors' mental health. Where we talk about last year being such a great year, David, it was not a great year for other people. And some top producers where their clients were just in a position where they could say, you know what, we're not going to do anything this year. And, if you had 10 people doing that, that really changed your year. So, I found, at least in my market, it was either like a banner year for people. They'd never seen numbers like this, or they had the worst year ever. There seemed to be kind of no middle ground. So I'm glad that some of these extra supports were put in place. I mean, we did all the basics, but what was really needed was these extra things where realtors could say, I'm just really suffering right now. And the Morneau Chapelle, sorry, it is more than just support for like depression or crisis intervention. It's everything from financial help to, I just want to lose some weight or be more active and healthy. So it's a great, like, sort of whole suite of services.
And that's the LifeWorks part of that, is it not? Or is that all of Member Connect?
Yes, it is.
Is that the whole thing, Member Connect
that's
as well?
the LifeWorks.
LifeWorks, okay. I think that's wonderful as well. Mindset, mentality, mental health, massive topics of discussion. And I think that it has been amplified in a major way because of COVID, because of the isolation. So the fact that OREA's got support mechanisms in place, I think is very powerful. And I would encourage anybody who is tuned in, if you are looking for, some assistance, some support, anything. I mean, feed your brain, just do a little bit of self-development, go learn about what's available through the association and what could be there to help you. David, did you have, tell us more, maybe even the COVID-19 relief plan. What is Member Connect about?
Yeah, I'll expand a little bit on what Stacy mentioned about the relief plan. I would challenge each of us to even think about whether we know what normal mental health looks like. The three of us, like we have what was normal like last February, because we've gone through so many different things. So last March, April, the board said we've been known for education, and standard forms and government relations, but we hear that from our clients that they need more, and so that was really what would we do about it. And we really started with this LifeWorks program for 6 months, and it was about you can do a self-assessment. You can confirm what your mental health, financial health, physical health might be like. And I was super proud at the end of the year that that the board extended it for 3 more years at no cost to the member. You can do a self-assessment. You can see what's what is on what it's like. You can there are podcasts. You can contact somebody if you want, email or phone. So it's really very, very important that we're not just about contracts and bricks and mortar anymore. We really want to take a holistic approach, and I think that we've got a lot of very good feedback about that. The Member Connect program is something that we really just wanted to literally do that, connect with all our members, and make sure that we talk to them. We alerted them to some of the services that they may not be familiar with, LifeWorks being one of them, and some other tools. Confirm their contact information. Do you want to be contacted? You would any questions that you have. And as of a couple months ago, we had about 700 questions that we were able to pass on to the appropriate, to the college or government relations or finance or something, that then formed part of a database of frequently asked questions. So it was really quite powerful. And a bunch of people, some people that, not a bunch, but a bunch of people that weren't on that weren't getting emails, and said, yeah, this is great, and I do want to be added. So it was really something that sometimes people don't understand what their association is doing for them, because they got licensed, they took their classes, went to the OREA Real Estate College, and kind of, then everything was from their brokerage or their board, and really wasn't focused on OREA. And I got to say it at least once in this hour, the OREA dues are $110 a year. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that realtor members get for $110 a year, standard forms and government relations and all of these things. So it was the Member Connect program, I think, was incredibly valuable to make sure people understood that.
Yeah, and I would echo that and say, and I'm glad you brought that up. That what the dues are. I think just putting that right on the table to go, look, like there's a lot of value packed into this, and then the fact that you guys have gone down that as you called it, holistic approach to beyond just your bricks mortar standard forms, but the mindsets, the mental part of things, that is powerful stuff. And as people go through mental health issues or people find their next level of success, we all know it very much does revolve around having the proper mindset for what we do, and having that mindset again. Well, sometimes it's not so easy to keep it positive, but it's good to know that there's support out there. So, switching gears on that a little bit and looking at maybe coming back to what's going on out there. We look at this market. And I mean, we've brought it up. It is a wild market out there right now. When does it end? Like, do we see an end in sight? Will this continue through the fall market? Well, what's your thoughts on this? And it's all speculation, but I figure I may as well ask and see what kind of opinions we got.
Well, I'll start. And over the last year, I was president-elect last year, and what we do is we talk to boards around the province about what's going on in their market. And so the story's been pretty consistent. So what I'm saying is probably going to be consistent in all the markets around the province. And Stacey will add on London in a minute. But really, if you ask that question, David, I just ask you to do some critical thinking. The market is based on supply, demand, and interest rates. If we keep it real simple, demand is super high, and it's local, so it's your market and Stacey's market, and so demand is really high in Ottawa. Government employment is solid. High tech has always been high here. We have light rail. They can't get a train to run real well, but they're at least they're in town anyway. They're living somewhere. So demand is high. Investors are here. People are relocating from Toronto. So demand's not going anywhere. supply isn't getting solved anytime soon in my market to address that excess demand. And money is cheap, and with the economy requiring some effort in order to get back on track after COVID, that's a year or two, without interest rates in order to create stimulus. So I'm not sure which of those three things are going to change rapidly in my market, and you could think about it in your market. But I think this market's here for us for a little while yet. I mean, I have clients that have been talking to me for 5 years, saying that they're going to buy when the bubble hits, and it's 5 years later they still haven't bought, and the bubble isn't hitting, and it's not likely to anytime soon. I mean, certainly in my market, with the government employment being super stable, they just don't anticipate it happening. So we need, and we at OREA have been pushing for pro-supply policies. That's been a big thing. The demand is great. Isn't it great that people are employed and can afford to buy a house and want to buy a house and real estate and value the houses? It's a supply issue, and we really are pushing for government to reduce red tape, get shovels in the ground faster, and really deal with the supply issues, because that's where how the problem gets solved. And so that's really what OREA has been pushing for the last couple of years, and will continue to do so.
I want to come back to that issue of supply in a moment, but what are you seeing in sort of your neck of the woods out there in London, Ontario, and area, I guess we would call it?
So David, the low inventory problem started for us in February of 2015. So we're 6 years later.
All right.
At that time, we dipped just below 3 months of inventory, and that made us consider it a low inventory problem. We're now sitting at 0.04% of inventory. So it's like the problem is like 8 times greater than what it was. Like we're at 0.04 of 1 month's inventory. So I don't see this problem correcting anytime soon. The change I do see in the future at some point, and who knows when this is going to be, is just that you're going to see less multiple offers. As the inventory goes up, the multiple offer situation will cool off a bit. But I can tell you, David's right. I mean, all of the surrounding areas, Sarnia, has never had like a fabulous, robust market. Windsor sort of has struggled for years, having, a heyday in their market. So, I mean, it's all over. It's even up. David and I were on a call the other day where a gentleman from the north talked about rents up there being $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And quite honestly, I was shocked by that, because we're seeing, not quite that low, but around those numbers in southwestern Ontario. And I still would have been under the, I think misguided thinking that you could move to the north, and still be able to rent something for a reasonable amount. But I would argue that this is across the province. And one thing, when we get in front of government, like we did on Monday, it's something that's being talked about every time. So every time we get the chance, we're talking about supply and what we need the government to do, and where we see the red tape, and just that, some barriers are going to have to be broken down. But David said it great. It's the combination of those three things that are causing the market to be what it is. I would also argue that the pandemic has really changed things. I think last year, with this shift to moving to home, you saw two things happening. First, you have two working people, maybe with kids, maybe without, but all of a sudden it's like we need two offices at home. We can't share an office for 8 hours a day and both be on calls. So people had a shift in terms of what their needs were in terms of a home. All of a sudden, like a little small, for two young professionals, all of a sudden, like a little cottage bungalow wasn't doing it anymore. So, we also saw a major push as people were thinking we're going to go into a second or even a third wave. I need to move because we can't function in this space. Then I would say we were seeing an out migration, because all of a sudden people were saying, I don't need to live where I work anymore because now I'm going to be working from home. So we saw some definite out migration from that, where people were like, well, we don't need to pay these big, huge price tags because our money is going to go so much further the farther I move sort of out of the GTHA. So I was seeing a combination of all of those things, but for me, there's no end in sight in our market.
Interesting. Yeah. And we've seen a lot of people leave the city and start to move up and sort of move out and go for the bigger place. And I mean, but we're looking at the cost of things. And I want to come back to cost in a minute, but I want to stay on this topic for a minute of, supply is low and the red tape. And you guys were speaking to government the other day. Can you give us some insights there into what are some of these things that we're pushing for, and what is this red tape? Like, is there anything that, we as a whole collectively can do more to try to help with this?
It's
So
really
David,
all.
I can, oh, sorry.
Go
Go ahead.
no,
David,
no,
you go. Go ahead.
No, as you said, I'm the president. Stacy, you go ahead.
David, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but OREA put out this awesome piece last year called Big Opportunities, Small Communities. Do I have that right, David Oikle?
Small towns, big opportunities.
Okay. So it's this great policy piece that OREA put out, but it was basically about changes government needed to make in order to make smaller communities, people want to move there and to support business growth and all of that in smaller communities. And the number one thing that came out of that, and as realtors, we all know this, is broadband internet being accessible everywhere in Ontario. And as you know, we talked about this the other day, like you go literally a hair outside of London, even to like one of the bordering streets of London, and the internet service is terrible there. So it's just bringing, these things that seem so kind of minute and simple, but into the forefront of government. And the broadband actually did make it into the preliminary budget that just came out. So we're happy about that. Government is listening. When we take the time and we put the time and effort into this, they listen. So it was about, offering incentives to businesses that move into a smaller community. It helps stimulate their economy. They can get rents and all of that for cheaper. But I think David will agree with this. For so long, the government of Ontario has just focused on Toronto and area, and then, to some degree, Ottawa, and everything else in Ontario got left out. So, anytime that they were looking to like open up surplus land or any of that, they were only ever focusing on, greater Toronto area. And really, they need to focus on the whole province. So it's basically like the three level of government. And, in Ontario, it's municipal and provincial, getting together and just saying, how can we free up some of this land? Like, why is it taking 3 to 5 years sort of from, start to shovel in the ground? It's way too long. The demand is so high. So those are some of the things that we're always talking to government about, and just where we need the red tape reduced.
I think that Stacy hit it right, and the broadband's a big thing, and again, it's not. I got clients in Ottawa that don't have to go downtown for their offices any longer, and even when so they want to be a little further out, and Wi-Fi is spotty everywhere, so it's not just a northern problem, but it's a bigger issue there, and so the smaller towns, businesses may not want to go there if the broadband isn't as strong. But we also want to do a natural gas expansion, because a lot of the rural communities have propane. And so we're pushing for natural gas expansion. And so, some of these things sound newfangled and fancy, but the 400 highways were, 50 years ago. I mean, these are sort of critical infrastructure things to allow for growth all over the province. And so I think that these are things that we're pushing for. One of the other things that maybe people aren't as familiar with is opportunity zones. It's something that, as Stacy mentioned, 87% of the jobs over the last 5 years have been created in Ottawa and Toronto. So, so how do we encourage people to invest in places where they're maybe underdeveloped? And so tax breaks in certain places, and it's something that's worked in south of the border. The Democrats and Republicans actually both agree on. And so we're encouraging governments to contemplate how to create incentives for businesses to go and open up. And then the last thing is that municipal governments, could do a better job at, Main Street, maybe retail spaces, allowing them to be converted to rental spaces or housing spaces where they might not have been in the past, because Main Street, Ontario is changing. And so maybe some of the spaces that were previously commercial could get get repurposed, and approvals, we just encourage approvals to be happen quicker, and have some foresight to create more housing options. So we're really talking about a whole bunch of different things, and they're listening. I mean, we're not dragging them along. They're absolutely paying attention to it, because they're hearing from their constituents that they want these issues addressed, and I'm optimistic that the right stuff's going to happen.
Great insights on that. Some of these things, I mean, just what you just brought up with commercial being switched over, the gas pipelines, and it stays. I mean, the minute you said broadband, I thought to myself, like, absolutely, right? We think to ourselves, I mean, Jennifer and myself being in the city, we always contemplate, the cottage life. And then we have this argument about the pool versus the cottage, yada, yada. Anyways, I'd like to go north. And for what we do with Mindshare, in today's world, the fact that we're not doing a lot of travel, we don't have to be physically in places, but we can do all this, virtually. My biggest holdup, I mean, outside of the kids and their schools and their sports and all that stuff, which is very major, would be, how is the internet quality? And so the fact that you bring that up, it like really, really resonates. And then Dave, you're parallel to that with the 400 highways, yeah, it's like we want to speed it up so we can get more people moving and doing and integrated. Lots of logic to that. So I thank you guys for sharing insights. Now, to me, out of all of this, I still ask the question of, and I've asked this question many times, and I know nobody really has the proper answer, but I'm just curious to insights, because it's still something that burns my brain every day. But where are people getting all this money? I mean, we talk about the fact that interest rates are low. I get it, right? But we look at the fact that prices are continuing to go up. We look at the affordability around the prices of real estate. And I think to myself too is, we're very happy with what we have. We're very grateful for what we have. Would we like more space? And to the comment you made before, Stacey, of saying like, family unit is at home, we now need like place to work. Yeah, we're all looking for that. However, the affordability factor, even though rates are low, we continue to see prices skyrocket. And I'll share a quick one here is that, I don't know, it could be argued prices are overvalued. Okay. But that, when we look at that, and I go, a friend of mine the other day put an offer for a home. They offered 400,000 over asking and lost. My jaw hit the floor. 2 weeks later, they went back and offered 400,000 over asking on another property, which in my mind was already overvalued by 200,000, and they won it. But in my head now, they've spent 600,000 over what it market value may say that house is. Now, again, you could argue that and say, well, market value today might be 1.7. In a matter of weeks or maybe a couple months to go 600,000, that is a lot of money. So the big question, again, coming back to it all after I said that, where are people getting the money from? How is it if you get qualified at 750, does the bank go, we'll give you $1 million? And what do we think that's going to do to affect?
Let me jump into this one first, because actually, David, I was going to back you up on the last one and say, in talking to government red tape and all that, affordability is definitely also something that we're always talking about. And the number one thing for us all as realtors is the dream of home ownership, which we know is getting out of touch for some people. So this segues right into the next topic perfectly. But, it's also about affordable homes, for low income earners, and like, what is that looking like, and rents getting driven up and all of that. But to specifically answer your question, I think, parents are having to help out. If you want your kid to get a house, we're seeing a lot of, involvement with parents, having to pull out of, RRSPs or stuff like that to help their kids out. So I think that you're seeing a lot more of that happening these days, or, people going into places for the first time in the past few years. I don't know about David, but I've done a few deals where it's non-related people buying properties together. So lots in my market, I've heard of, 4 ladies who are all single, in their 60s, and they're going in together to buy a place. And I think you're going to see more of this kind of as we go forward, and people have to relook and, sort of go outside the box in terms of what they're thinking about housing. But definitely, like, as much as we can go to the, the million price mark, I think it's also to go in reverse and say, what about at that 300 mark, or what about at that 400 mark? And what is that now looking like in our province? And, I think that's another thing that we have to stay in the face of government to say that, we somehow have to do something to make sure that people can still enter the market. And once these investment properties jump way up in price, and then we have rents catch up to that, what does that look like for people who are trying to get into the rental market?
I will just add that, it's really kind of, there's a bunch of people that have been so significantly impacted by this market, and, restaurant and entertainment folks, and it's just really difficult to see them and the impacts on those folks. Folks that have kept their job and are working have just so much more money because they're not going anywhere. They're not going out. They haven't traveled. They're not traveling anywhere. And so I've got some friends that have, as Stacey mentioned, have an ability to help fund down payments for their kids. I think that a lot of that is happening in order to get them started with the down payment, if nothing else. So I think that's really where that's happening. I mean, and in my market has historically been it still is much cheaper than Toronto, and folks are selling their place. I mean, putting an offer in this afternoon, somebody's selling their place in Etobicoke, nice house in Etobicoke, but it wouldn't be $1.8 million in Ottawa, I can tell you that. And so they're selling their places there, and putting an offer on a place up here for big home out near Carleton Place for about $1 million, and the beautiful home, and they're going to have $800,000 that when they're downsizing. So really it's really which market you're going from and to, but it's as Stacey said, assistance from people, and then equity from their former home as they switch from a higher price market to a lower price market.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
David?
And, yeah, go for it.
I was just going to say, a term I've started using recently that I think is really funny is I've taken the term downsizing out of my vocabulary, and I actually call it upsizing. So it's taking the old traditional big home, the kids have left home, and now you're selling that, but you actually can't move to your 1-floor ranch with sort of all the bells and whistles that you want for less money. So upsizing instead of downsizing. And to me, it's a very real thing.
It's interesting because I was mentioning recently to people that I believe there's a lot of deals to be made right now for anybody that I'm going to use downsizing for just a second, but for anybody that's doing something like that, where you're almost going, I'm going to get out of the bigger home, I'm going to go into the kind of maybe not as significant of a home. There should be opportunities to save it or to buy for less. There should be, depending on where you're buying. So I believe there's always something there. But what do you both have as maybe what advice do we want to give to the industry when it comes to the topic of prices specifically?
Really, as an industry, I think we've been doing a great job looking after our clients, because on any given, from an advice perspective, we're managing the market dynamics like anybody else. I mean, we are dealing with the market dynamics. We're not creating them. So, when I'm sitting down with a seller and saying, okay, and a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I sat down with a 83-year-old guy who'd worked all his life, didn't have a pension, didn't have an RSP. He'd been living in his RSP, and now he was, his house was his RSP, and now he's going to sell that, and his kids asked me to help him sell it to get into so he could fund his continue his rental. So my responsibility at that point is, what am I going to list it at, and how am I going to help him stage it and to help him fund his retirement? I mean, from a pricing perspective, there's somebody on the other side giving advice to the buyer as to how to navigate and budget and plan and get your pre-approvals and know your down payments in place and all of those things that in the past we'll get your pre-approval and then we'll go to the bank for 5 days or 10 days afterwards in a conditional period. Well, we know that the conditional periods don't exist any longer. And so we really have to have everybody in place. And so I think that the industry has done a really great job to deal with the realities to get those people in the homes. But realtors are managing these things and impacted by these things like the buyers and sellers are. We're not managing them. We're dealing with them as anybody else is. So I think that I think that we're doing a great job looking after our clients, depending on which side of the transaction that we're on.
I think the funny thing, David, about this market is that, as realtors, like the community at large think realtors love this market and it's a heyday for realtors. And, all of us can speak to the fact that this is like, we would rather be in any other market than this. But honestly, I think my broker of record said it best when I said, I don't really want to be working with buyers right now for the reasons, David, that you mentioned a few minutes ago, like the 400 or 500. We've seen that recently in our market over. But the funny thing is, my boss says, do your buyers wish they'd bought 6 months ago? Do they wish they'd bought a year ago? Like, when is the end in sight for this? And really, at the end of the day, I do believe we'll see some downward pressure on multiple offers. But are we going to see downward pressure on values in London? We've been undervalued for so long when you compared us to like Kitchener-Waterloo or a Hamilton. And of course, they're closer to Toronto, but we were so far behind. I remember once clients were going from London to Hamilton, and they were shocked that they were going to sell something in London and, have to almost triple it to move to Hamilton. People just thought it's an hour down the road. So I just think we're seeing across the province just this like catching up that just had to occur. And, Sarnia, like I said, is like now catching up to London. And so you're sort of seeing it. Strathroy and St. Thomas, which are just on the fringe of London, having like the same kind of crazy markets exactly as what you're seeing in London.
What about, so do we think that then, and I know that we're on the brink of sort of learning, is this going to happen or is it not going to happen? What are we thinking about this capital gains tax? Do we think that they're going to bring it in? And if so, is this going to cool things down?
Well, I'll talk. I'll start a little bit. I mean, obviously, we think it would be a disaster for Canadians. Not just Ontarians, for Canadians. I think that my example just a minute ago, I talked about the fact that the 83-year-old guy was living in his RSP. Sell that and tax that before he goes into retirement. We really don't think that this is the right way to address what might be a short-term issue with supply issues in an overheated market. It seems sexy to say, well, let's tax something and fund our COVID relief programs on the backs of the rich. But where do you start that? You start it up here, and then it slowly comes down, and as prices come up, then we're all covered within it. And if you think we have a supply problem now, can you imagine if you said, well, I was going to sell my house, to David, to your issue of I'm going to sell my there to go to there. Well, if I go, well, I don't want to pay tax on it, so I'm not going to sell it. I'll just ride it out and live here, and I'll let the kids worry about it when I sell 20 years later. So I think there's a whole bunch of reasons why that would be a problem. And I live in Ottawa, and so you go for a beer with some friends and folks that when we used to do that, when you could actually go for a beer. And some of them work for the government, and they say, are you concerned about that? And I said, well, we were paying attention to it. This is last fall. I said, well, you should be, because there's enough chatter about it in some meetings that they're in Department of Finance and stuff, that we don't think it's going to happen, but we want to make sure that we don't sit back, and we want to pay attention to the fact that this is a concern. And we want to work with our friends at the Canadian Real Estate Association, who have responsibility for federal issues, to make sure that this is something that does not get any traction at all, because we think it would be terrible for Canada, terrible for the supply issues, and just wouldn't be the right way to address what we think is maybe a short-term issue.
I think the people that this would end up hurting, I can tell a great personal story too, of a lady. I just sold her house within the last month, 76 years old. She bought her house in the 1970s, so it had been their family home all along. she'd spent lots of money every year. She had like a little nest egg of money that she put back into the house, and she'd kept it in amazing condition. And it was such a great story. I went to see her 6 months ago and I gave her pricing. And although I hate to do it, I said, let's spend this little bit of money. It was less than 20,000. Let's change some of this green shag carpet to some hardwood and do a bit of painting. And she'd done so many other things that it was like, let's just do these few things. Do you know how great it was to walk in after she'd done these and say, your house, just like, we can list it for 80,000 more than I told you. And she had only spent 20,000. And then she ended up getting 160,000 over.
Wow.
So she ended up having 200,000 to just put in the bank, and she is renting now. She will be able to live off that till the day she dies. And then taking what was like the principal on her residence and just being able to put that into something where she can live again off just a little bit of interest. Like, it was such a feel-good story. And it was one of those things that this tax just goes right to the heart of, how is that fair that you've owned your house since the 70s? It's your primary vehicle that you have for your retirement and savings. And now we're going to pull that out from under you. So the great thing is that if something like this gets traction, we will be able to fight back. And these personal stories are like what really sit with MPs. We are going to have to dig all these stories out of the woodwork to just be able to say, we cannot do this to people who have worked their whole lives for this one investment.
My immediate thoughts that are coming to my mind right now. I not only coach realtors, but I coach hockey and I coach baseball. And the Ontario Baseball Association came to all of our clubs and said, look, we've got a letter. It is pre-drafted. If you want, it could be helpful, send it to your MP. And I took the letter, for me, and they went out to like the entire community of Baseball Ontario. And basically, we were able to send this letter off to go, we want to get bigger bubbles, let's call it anyhow. But bringing that, keeping it to today's conversation, looking at that, is there anything that we collectively can do beyond just the association? We as a real estate community, is there a letter? Is there somebody we can talk to? How do we bring our muscle of like the tens of thousands, over 100,000 plus, even across the country, to stand behind each other and say, like, we're putting our hands up, like, no. Is there anything we can do? Can we start something?
Yeah, we will. We absolutely will. And the staff at OREA are exceptional on these regards. We have 37 boards around the province that have government relations committees that are incredibly intertwined in their communities, work on the campaigns, know the members of parliament from hockey, the MPPs from hockey and from baseball and from maybe church. And so along with the federal, in a coordinated effort with our federal colleagues, I think that we certainly want to make sure that our voices are heard because they're loud there and they're influential in their communities. So yeah, so we understand that that's something that we have an opportunity to do. So I know that the staff at OREA, along with the support of the board, are going to pay attention to that, David. So thanks for encouraging us along, because I think it's absolutely something that we should be doing.
I would say to you guys, lean on us over here at Mindshare, whatever we can do to be a voice and get that word out there. I want to continue to help you with that and I've got a vested interest on both sides. For one, from our industry as a whole, and two, because naturally we're all just homeowners. And so, whatever we can do to get that word out there and really spread the word, leverage me, please. But, with that being said, as you mentioned, the staff over at OREA, I've been, very fortunate to be able to work with many of the folks over there, and you guys really do have an amazing crew. Now, I also want to bring this up because, keeping in mind what we just discussed, and I did go through the OREA's bold plan to save the dream of home ownership in Ontario, and the 10-point action plan. Am I correct in, I guess, assuming or maybe making the statement that this is in place to address our current situation, or is this an even bigger picture outlook, Stacey?
So yeah, for sure. It's that, at the heart of everything we do, we want home ownership to be a reality for everyone in Ontario. And everyone, I always say this to my clients, everyone has a dream home, whether it's 100,000 apartment that they're buying for the first time, or, you know, it's $1 million mansion, a dream home, you know, to each person, their home is their dream. And the dream of home ownership, it doesn't matter on where it lands on the scale. So there's so many things that we're doing at OREA that all sort of, if you put that right at the center of the nucleus, everything else is pointing back at that. You know, very big to David and myself is like breaking down barriers and diversity to make sure that home ownership is attainable to everyone in the province. Like, we're such a, you know, multicultural province now, and we know that barriers exist. So we're undertaking a lot. But what I would tell you is, at the very center of that is home ownership for everyone. And everything that we do, it's so key in our strategic plan, is driving directly towards that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that you know, I'm not sure how much time we have, but that's a very important issue that Stacey identified. I mean, you know, a year ago, you know, we struck a presidential advisory group on diversity, inclusion, and equity in all its forms. You know, race, sexual orientation, all kinds of different issues that might limit somebody's access to home ownership and renting. Realtors, you know, we and you know, throughout all elements, buying, selling, you know, board leadership, you know, board members, brokerages. You know, we struck a committee, and we're going through a research phase, and you have an exceptional team looking at those issues as to what OREA can do to make a positive impact on the opportunity for homeownership and rental in Ontario. You mentioned we have a voice, David, and we need to use it on a bunch of different things. And this is one that you know, I'm very passionate about. It's very personal to Stacey with her family as well. So you know, I think that it's something that we're very proud of, and I expect that we'll be making announcements about what we can do after the research is done. Chair of the committee is Devel Morrison, a realtor and a broker in Toronto who is exceptional. Mm-hmm. Michael Coteau is an advisor, great guy. So we're really dedicating our staff resources and our commitment to that. So it's really very, very important to us all. And I'm looking forward to having a positive impact in the province for sure.
Oh, and I got no doubt that it will. And now, you know, speaking to initiatives, is there, are there any OREA initiatives or topics that either one or both of you would like to share with everybody that maybe we haven't touched on yet today?
I'll start on one, Stacey. And, you know, one of the things that we embarked on a couple of years ago was the fact that we know that realtors are such incredible volunteers in our community. You mentioned it yourself about, you know, baseball and hockey, and, you know, we're all involved in our own way. And I don't have, I'm not involved in Sparks, but somebody on this call here is involved in Sparks and Girl Guides. So, but it's not me. But we all do so much, and we really wanted to tell those stories, both in what we donate in time and sometimes in money to within our communities. And so we created a Real Heart campaign to tell those stories about the heart that we deliver in our communities. And we really launched it last February in Niagara Falls, right at the time then the pandemic started. And so we didn't think that was the right time to be launching that, but we will be telling those stories this year. We'll be having a campaign to tell the great stories about what Ontarians, what realtors do around the province, because we do so many things. And so you can look for that. It's a Real Heart campaign. I have a call tomorrow we're talking about the launch of it. So that's one thing that we're doing in order to tell the stories of how exceptional we are, because you know, we just continue to do these things, but I think we could tell our stories better because it's happening all around the province. That's one thing for sure.
So David, I'll jump in. For sure, I'm proud of this. I mean, honestly, I'm president-elect of OREA because I'm so proud of the work that realtors from around the province do. And I'm proud to be a realtor, and I'm proud to be aligned with people who I think put others first and, you know, put themselves second. They're out there in their communities, and they're unsung heroes because they're not looking for the fanfare. We have to really dig to get people to talk about what they do in their communities. So I'm very proud of this. Also, all the work that realtors do and contribute to the Realtors Care Foundation. We took that from sort of having a dream of $1 per member per month, and many boards now are contributing $2 per member per month. We just did a huge grant to the foundation from OREA on behalf of members to do a second, just a huge influx of cash out to the communities where the need is high because of COVID. It's the second time we've been able to do that. So I'm proud of that, because we recognize that need right now is higher than it's ever been. But what I would say to you is, we're tackling the big issues. I mean, the PEG, I am so proud of that. I'm in a biracial marriage. I have Black children. So for sure, this is near and dear to me. When the Black Lives Matter happened last year and everyone was sort of jumping on the bandwagon of, what should we do? What should our statement be? I was very vocal in let's not have a statement. If we aren't going to sort of put rubber to the road on this, then let's just do status quo. But we can't do that because, we aren't the face of realtors. It's much more than me or David. And we want, our board and our foundation and our committees and all of that to be truly representative of the people that we serve in Ontario. And we haven't done a good job of that. And there's a reason why those people don't feel comfortable coming out and volunteering or getting involved. And so we're blowing up everything. And I honestly am so proud of the work that we're doing at OREA. We've made mistakes along the way, and we're saying we've made mistakes, but how can we get better? And how can we support our members in the way that they truly deserve to be supported? So I'm so proud of all these great extra things that we're doing.
That's awesome. And when is there an upcoming AGM, and will members have an opportunity to, ask questions about any of the stuff that we talked about today? Not just that they're getting it from the Mindshare podcast, but in general, any of the initiatives put on by OREA, as well as maybe ask questions, review budget details. Is there an AGM planned, and will members have an opportunity to take part?
The AGM is end of February, early March each year. So we're just over a month into my term, and 10 and a half months away from when Stacey will become president. So next, and so we really hope that that's going to be in person. We really have two large events. Normally, in a normal year, we have a government relations conference at the end of November, typically, where we lobby members of parliament, MPPs. And have opportunity to be in person. But the AGM is at the end of February next year. Hopefully, it'll be in person. It'll be in Toronto. We'll see. All right, we'll see about that. We did a good job virtually, and then the other element. But the financial statements are online. Members can get access to what our financial statements are, our financial plan. We really want to make sure everybody has as much information as possible about our association. A big thing for us, everybody would have become a realtor probably through the Ontario Real Estate College. OREA has for many years been the point of contact for people to get their license, a pre-licensing education. And RICO took that to tender 5 years ago, and it's now been granted with Humber College and NIA. So they're doing that now, and we are running the last folks through the college in June. So as of June, all the students will be through. It was supposed to be November, but COVID, for now, obviously reasons, we extended it so people could finish their courses. So we're going to be focused as an entity on, the college has been a big part of us, but we, the key values that we've done, standard forms, government relations, leadership training, stuff that we've been really, really good at, and what we add tremendous value to our members. It's going to help us because that's going to be our focus areas, and our strategic plan confirmed that last year. So we're really excited about that, and the staff will continue to deliver great results on those things.
Excellent. I'm curious to know, just a quick question around, sort of the salesy part of our world. You're both still selling, right? Okay.
Yes.
Give me like 2 seconds from each of you on the importance of time management, because I press on this. This is one of my biggest, most integral, foundational topics that I like to teach about, rant about, go off about, really poke everybody about. I believe if you manage time properly, you can get a lot more done in a day. The fact that you both volunteer beyond just this role that you're in, and you sell, and there's families, how are you managing it all? Like, or maybe just what's the importance of time management? Just 2 sentences to our audience.
Go ahead, Stacy.
So it's funny, David, if it's not my calendar, it's not happening. And literally, if I forget to put it in my calendar, it's not happening. So, it honestly is just for me, many years back, I learned about time blocking. I did it for prospecting in my business. I've always left time every day to, reach out to clients, and I follow Buffini. So I do like the pop buys and the handwritten notes and all of that kind of stuff. But it is all about just the time blocking. And I think that that's what makes you have time for the volunteering. So in addition to this, which I don't really consider volunteering, but I guess it is, I'm co-chair at my kids' school of a school of 1,000 kids. And I've been doing that for about the last 3 years. I'm a Spark leader, which David mentioned. So every Monday I mentor 5 and 6-year-old girls to empower them to be the best they can be. And then I make time for my colleagues and people around the province who just need a bit of mentoring, or, they're having a rough rut in their business, and like, what can we do to kind of just tweak and change some things? I'm always like sharing ideas or helping new agents in the business. This is like what makes my heart beat. I love the selling. I love my clients and, turning their dreams into reality. But more than that, I love the giving back. And I think that that's what's at the heart of every realtor.
I got nothing compared to that. Can we just skip over me after that? What is interesting is that over the years there's been a perception that realtors want to be on boards so they can go to conferences, and do just go out of town and do stuff, right? And so go on trips. Well, guess nobody's going on trips this year. Nobody's gone, and Stacy wanted this job knowing that she's not traveling anywhere for a while. It's really a calling. I mean, either you've got it or you don't. Either you want to be a service deliverer and somebody. I was 8 years on the Ottawa board, and this is my 5th year now on the OREA board. And really, it's a matter of wanting to serve and doing it for the right reasons and caring about realtors. I'm humbled by Stacy all the time because I don't have that. I got a 94-year-old mother that I look in on 3 times a week, and she's a couple hundred yards up the road. So we all have our things that we look after. But it is time management. And for me on the real estate side, there are I have 2 offers that I think are on my email there, and so I've got. There's a virtual assistants that can type up offers. Everybody's got different things. Somebody can do your signs if you want. Somebody can put up your signs. You don't have to drive around and hammer signs in the lawn. But I have a virtual assistant that types up offers and gets them to me. And once I'm okay, can send them for docu-signing. So it's really a matter of what are you worth? What's your hourly rate, and if somebody else can do it for cheaper, then that's what you should do, and that's how you get through these things, because you can't do it all, so you have to figure out who else is going to do some stuff, and the stuff that you can't get anybody else to do is to talk to your clients, so you got to find time for that. But typing up offers is something that somebody else can do. Sending for DocuSign, somebody else can do. FinTrack, definitely somebody else can do.
No, amazing answer there. I only got a couple more questions here, short ones, but this is one of my absolute favorite ones, and I ask this one a lot because I do a lot of learning on my own. I feed my brain a lot, and I really try to pick up from people. Where does success come from? And the question that I'm going to ask you guys is to each of you, and just in short, maybe, but how do you know it has been a successful day for you? Stacy, do you want to start us off?
I would say everything on my to-do list is done, but you guys know as realtors, that's never the case. I was on something this morning with a woman. It was a woman's panel from TREB that Lisa Patel invited me to. And was it really interesting? This lady said today that every night she identifies what are her top 3 things that she's going to accomplish the next day. And as long as those 3 things get done, she feels accomplished. I mean, you know, there's so many things that I think define success. Something that jumps out at me as a perfect example is I was talking to a realtor a week ago who, you know, she makes quite a bit more than me, but she works 7 days a week. And I'm trying to like really talk her down off the ledge to say, you know, so much more of what you're paying is going to the government. And let's dial that back and like, you know, what do you need to live? And, you know, how can we get you 2 days off a week? So for me, honestly, where David and I are both a bit different than presidents who have served before us in recent years is we're boots on the ground. Both of us are working realtors. We're not brokers of record. I, like David, have an assistant, which, you know, I rely on as well to just help me. But I think success for me is, you know, my work life, you know, how is my quality of life? That is how success is measured. When I came down today and my 3-year-old told me I look fabulous today, that was a successful day for me. So, you know, success so much for me, it's not about the money, the fame. It's honestly like what I feel in my heart. And when I can go to bed at night and feel like I've done a great job for my clients and, you know, they love me and I have great relationships with people, that's success to me. Success isn't how much do I have in my bank account. And even going back to 2020, my word for 2020 is gratitude. I mean, you know, my husband and I both had jobs where we had money coming in. We got to spend extra time with our kids. You know, we're healthy. Gratitude is my word for 2020. And for 2021, my word is inclusive and inclusive for everyone. So that's what measures success for me.
Yeah, Stacy got to the word that mattered to me is that when you put your head on the pillow, it's relationships. Like you run through the list of people that you interacted with that day, and you want those relationships and those interactions to have been positive. And you know, I do that with board in my board responsibilities, my personal life, and with you know, and with my clients. And so, you know, if you look after people and you take care of them, then good stuff happens. If you're focused on the good stuff happening, then you're focused on the wrong end of the stick. So you look after people and good stuff happens. You know, you look after the OREA staff, they go do great things. You look after the other board members, they're really fired up to go do good stuff. You talk to your clients and look after them, and guess what? If you look after your clients, you will get paid at some point. If you're focused on getting paid, then you're going to probably screw something up. So it's all about relationships and looking after people. And that's why Stacy does what she does and I do what I do, because that's, you know, because we are putting ourselves in a position to have more relationships and more interactions, but we care about that so much that, you know, and I'm I don't know how I got to this point. I'm a big time introvert. Like, and so this is hard work for me, but you know, because, and it wears me out. So you won't see me tonight. Don't be looking for me anywhere. I mean, because, you know, but I think we care about this stuff so much that we put ourselves in the area, but it's relationships for me. That's how I measure success for sure.
Wow. I'm blown away by the answers and in a very positive way. I love them both. I've been watching the clock and you've both been sharing some wonderful insights. At this time, I've got one last one here. Just any last words from either one of you? You know, what is the big message you want to get across? Is there anything? And I mean, I could have probably ended just on what you both just said around, you know, what success looks like. But I figure as we're about to taper off, just ask you, you know, is there anything that you can or want to leave us off with to help everybody that is tuned in get out there, really be better in life, be more successful, build more mind share, and just really have even more success as they move through the rest of 2021?
Well, you know,
Mr. President, you go ahead.
Well, you know, I never thought that I would be a beacon of how to you know, be like, I'm just thinking about myself. I mean, I really, you really talked about it, David, is that, you know, just focus on I focus on my mental health. Exercising for me is a big thing, but it's really about service. It's really not sweating the small stuff. When you think about that book's 20 years old now, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. But really, we feel so fortunate on a daily basis to be able to do what we do and to be healthy, and really, look after your clients, talk to your folks, deliver good value, and hope everybody's healthy. And I look forward to seeing everybody that's a realtor in person when I can. And David, I look forward to seeing you in Toronto when I can. And last summer I went for a drive, and I went and had the worst golf game ever in London with Stacy and her husband. I can tell you that we had a great evening in a golf course in London. I really, Stacy's a dear friend, and it wasn't about the golf, because it certainly wasn't about the golf. It was about connecting with people and enjoying. And I hope that people can continue to maintain those connections, so that when they see each other in person, when they can, that they're good to go. But a real pleasure talking to you, David. Thank you so much.
Likewise, thank you.
David, thanks for having me. So honestly, just in going forward to realtors, what I'd say is check on a neighbor, call up a realtor friend, who, maybe going through a tough time. If you know someone struggling in the business, give them some of those leads that you don't want, share some of the wealth, call up someone and offer some new agents to share some of your marketing materials, share the wealth. If 2020 taught us anything, it's about, we live in Canada, we have so much to be grateful for. And, I think 2020 was a year for me to really shout out to realtors and say, check on that person in the next office. Sometimes just a smile or a wave. We all get so busy and focused in what we're doing. And I just think right now is a time we're so good about doing it with our clients, but let's check on our fellow man. And, maybe there's someone in your office who's struggling, who you just need to throw on your back for a couple of weeks and help them over a rough patch. Maybe they've lost someone in their family, and even it's recent, and they're still struggling. Offering to do a showing for someone, or just doing a little something for them can have such a big impact. And I think in going forward, all of us can do and be better. And that's what I try to do every day. And I thank you for having me. It was so much fun. I'm thrilled to be in this role. I have big shoes to follow in that I'm never going to be able to fill. And anyway, it was great to be here, and I can't wait to be back face to face so that I could have a beer or some wings with the two of you.
We are certainly looking forward to that. If people want more information or want to connect with either of you, where should they go?
OREA.com for sure, and our information is there, and that would be the easiest way to get us both. And our names are there, and mine's easily Googleable in Ottawa, realtor with the spelling of a name like that. So they can connect with me, and I'd be pleased to chat with them. And just a last reminder, OREA's got your back, and the website's got a lot of information. And we look forward to any comments or feedback from everybody, because we really cherish them all.
I thank you both. I know we spent a whole bunch of time together today, more than we all planned. But I think that it was time well spent. The insights you shared were invaluable. I think that one of the things here that is so awesome is the synergy that the two of you have together. And I think that is an incredibly powerful dynamic that OREA is lucky to have, the membership is lucky to have. I'm excited for the both of you, and again, for what's in store for both of you, as well as how you're going to continue to lead the way as we progress through the rest of this year. So thank you both very, very much for making all this time today. It was an absolute honor having you both on the Mindshare podcast.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app. Maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And If you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call to learn more about what you're looking to achieve and, well, how I will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on, so be sure to please go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, rate us, and leave a review. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to once again thank Revel Realty Inc. and Kits Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's show. Revel Realty has become an influential brand in the real estate industry, expanding to 10 offices with almost 200 realtors servicing the Niagara region and beyond, and they invite you to join their revolutionary vision. To learn more about Revel Realty or to join the revolution, please visit www.revelrealty.ca. And if you haven't yet, check out the powerful marketing suite offered by Kits, including CRM, websites, lead gen tools, repeat and referral tools, and a library of curated social media content. Just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.